These are 3 more of SpongeBob's darkest episodes. Episode 1, Graveyard Shift. The episode Graveyard Shift starts with SpongeBob and Squidward preparing to work their first overnight shift at the Krusty Krab. What should be a simple night of work quickly transforms into a descent into paranormal terror that challenges everything they thought they knew about their workplace. To pass the time and mess with SpongeBob's head, Squidward tells him about the hash-slinging slasher, a former employee who met a gruesome end when his hand was replaced by a rusty spatula after a terrible accident, only to be hit by a bus and dragged back to the restaurant where his ghost now seeks revenge.
Yes, the hash-slinging slasher. But most people just call him the because that's all they have time to say before he gets out.
Tell me the story!
According to Squidward, the spirit returns every Tuesday night when 3 specific omens occur. This is where SpongeBob's psychological state starts to deteriorate completely. As the night progresses, each supernatural sign begins manifesting exactly as described. The lights flicker without explanation, the phone rings with no caller, and a mysterious bus approaches through the fog. SpongeBob's usual cheerful demeanor crumbles as he's forced to confront the possibility that the dead don't always stay buried. It was at this moment that both characters realized they might be facing genuine supernatural forces, when a shadowy figure with what appears to be a spatula for a hand enters the restaurant. SpongeBob experiences complete psychological breakdown. His terror is so intense that he can barely speak, reduced to a trembling mess as he faces what he believes is his own impending death. Compared to what's to come, this episode establishes how workplace environments can become sources of genuine psychological trauma. While the supernatural elements turn out to be coincidental, we watch as SpongeBob experiences authentic terror that completely shatters his worldview. The episode deals with mature themes of death, workplace accidents, and how urban legends can psychologically torment us. What makes this particularly unsettling is how it transforms the familiar Krusty Krab into a place where the boundary between life and death becomes terrifyingly thin. Episode 2, SquidBob Tentacle Pants. The next episode is SquidBob Tentacle Pants, and this is where SpongeBob ventures into body horror territory that rivals the most disturbing science fiction. This episode starts with Sandy conducting a teleportation experiment using SpongeBob and Squidward as test subjects. What begins as a simple scientific demonstration quickly becomes a nightmarish exploration of what happens when the boundaries between individual identity are violently destroyed. This is where things get genuinely horrifying. The teleportation goes catastrophically wrong, and instead of simply moving from one place to another, SpongeBob and Squidward become physically fused into a single, grotesque entity. They share the same body, but retain separate consciousnesses, creating a living nightmare where neither character has control over their own existence.
I'm not sure what it is, but something seems different about me.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, what are you doing with my hand? What am I doing with your hand? Ah, what is this? We're all mixed up together.
But this would all change when they realize the fusion isn't temporary. They're trapped in a body that belongs to neither of them, forced to experience every sensation together while maintaining their individual personalities. The psychological horror intensifies as they struggle to perform basic functions. They can't eat, can't work, and can't exist as separate beings. The most disturbing part comes when they realize that their individual identities are slowly being erased. They begin to lose track of where one personality ends and the other begins. This isn't just physical transformation, it's the complete dissolution of self. They experience what can only be described as a living death, where their consciousness exists, but their individual identity is being systematically destroyed. This episode doesn't just deal with scientific accidents. It explores themes of bodily autonomy, identity crisis, and the horror of losing control over your own physical existence. We watch 2 characters experience what amounts to psychological torture as they're forced to share a single body while retaining separate minds. The body horror elements combined with the identity crisis create a uniquely disturbing viewing experience that questions the very nature of individual consciousness. Episode 3, Are You Happy Now? Although SquidBob Tentacle Pants takes the cake for body horror, it's still not the darkest. The darkest episode is Are You Happy Now? And this one tackles clinical depression in ways that are genuinely disturbing for a children's show. This episode starts when SpongeBob discovers that Squidward claims he's never had a happy memory in his entire life. What begins as SpongeBob's typical attempt to help a friend quickly escalates into a deep exploration of clinical depression and suicidal ideation that crosses every line of appropriate children's content. This is where Squidward's true psychological state is revealed. As SpongeBob tries desperately to create a happy memory for him, we see that Squidward isn't just grumpy or pessimistic. He's suffering from severe clinical depression. Every attempt at happiness fails, and his mental state continues to deteriorate as he becomes increasingly isolated and hopeless.
And now he's melted it. not a happiest memory.
The most messed up thing in the entire series happens when Squidward locks himself in his house and refuses to come out. He stops eating, stops playing his clarinet, and stops engaging with the world entirely. The episode shows him lying in bed, staring at the ceiling with dead eyes, exhibiting classic symptoms of severe depression. What makes this particularly twisted is when he's shown in what appears to be a completely dissociative state, disconnected from reality. What makes this particularly disturbing is how the episode handles Squidward's mental health crisis. Instead of seeking professional help or addressing the underlying causes of his depression, the solution presented is essentially, just think happy thoughts. This trivializes genuine mental health struggles and suggests that depression can be cured through willpower alone, which is not only wrong, but potentially dangerous. Squidward, who we've always seen as merely pessimistic, is revealed to be suffering from what appears to be major depressive disorder. His inability to experience joy, his social isolation, and his complete withdrawal from activities he once enjoyed are textbook symptoms of clinical depression. The episode essentially uses mental illness as a plot device without properly addressing the serious nature of what's being depicted. This episode had multiple dark traits, but the most prominent being the realistic portrayal of clinical depression and social isolation. The fact that Squidward exhibits genuine symptoms of major depressive disorder, including anhedonia, social withdrawal, and what appears to be dissociative episodes, represents some of the darkest psychological content in SpongeBob history. What's worse is that the episode treats serious mental health issues as something that can be solved with simple positivity, potentially sending hurtful messages about depression to young viewers who might be experiencing similar struggles. If you want to see more dark episode analyses, check out this video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.